Hey everybody, Brian Hunt here with you again. This video is the ending of January. So this is going to be going over the last week of production. Using a different lens on the camera right now. This is the Lowell 10mm. It's ridiculously wide. Like, this is me literally probably 5 feet, 5 inches away from the lens itself. It is crazy wide. I love this lens a lot. I really like a wide lens. I'm kind of going back to my action sports BMX days of shooting with a fisheye. I love a lens like this, even though it doesn't distort. But maybe I'll do a video on this lens a bit later and how I like to use it. So let's go over this week of kind of production and what I had been going on. It was another interesting week. The last vlog and last kind of week was, talking a lot about the cold. This was challenging in the sense of weather again, but more with the snow and wind, and a lot with the wind. So I didn't have a shoot on the Monday. That was just kind of prepping, getting stuff ready. And then Tuesday, I went down to Toronto. So about a 2-hour drive if traffic's good or, weather's good as well. And I set up for a shoot there, which was a corporate kind of shoot in a big kind of convention center. And they had a big space for us, which was great. Really big building we had to load in. It was myself and Jonah. Carted a bunch of stuff in, set up. And we were doing a green screen shoot. The client wanted to do green screen because they're not sure exactly what they want to show with the people, and they might want to show some stuff back behind them or change the color of the background. So I'm not a huge fan of green screen in the sense of sometimes I think it's better just to shoot on a solid color, but I understand the options that way. And just green screen you always kind of worrisome a bit that you didn't light it as even if you should, or how it's going to key. But this worked out pretty well. Just using a paper green screen backdrop. I've found over the years I have some other fabric green screen backdrops. And a lot of people say the fabric will absorb the light a little bit more. It doesn't get as much reflection to it. Just kind of a softer material. I just find a problem a lot of times with that. It's just I'm constantly having to iron or use a steamer on it to get wrinkles out of it, because it's always going to have issues with it being wrinkled and stuff when it's a green screen that way, even trying to stretch it out. So I just found in the last little bit the paper green screens worked well, and I can rip off that when it gets a little bit too much. And these were sit-down interviews, so they weren't overly tricky. It wasn't a huge area that we need to key out, and people aren't moving around like crazy on it. And also, if we need to do a mask around the person, or a garbage mask, if some of the edges, the green is not as perfect, it's not going to be that big of a deal. What became a challenge was, so we set up on the Tuesday, I did that and got all set up. That was great. Then we drove back up another hour and 20 minutes to another town, another city, which was called Barrie, and I set up there for the county, and it was just helping them with a super simple covering a award ceremony. So they just wanted some better kind of footage of the award ceremony. They were actually going to do the editing of it, and have people or have the podium mic'd and stuff. So I set that up, and Jonah did ran the camera on that, did the filming when I went out for dinner. That went into the evening, and then as I was out for dinner, the weather got worse and worse and worse, snow-wise and wind-wise, and just kind of had to make the decision that we weren't going to drive the other hour back to where we both live. There's problems with the roads that way, and in the morning we had to be back down in Toronto for the green screen shoot. That would be another 2-hour drive again if traffic was okay, and I was worried that roads were going to be closed and other issues. So it was more of a direct drive down from where we were finishing up shooting. So we stayed over in Barrie, kind of last minute decision, but it was a good decision. We stayed over there, and then in the morning when we left, it still was really snowy and slow, but it was better than us coming another hour through that snow and issues. So went down to Toronto and we did the shoot. Was a bunch of interviews. I think there was maybe 20 or more interviews, and I was kind of conducting and directing the interviews as well for the client. So I had the list of questions for them. I kind of knew pretty well what their business was and how they worked. So I was directing the interviews, and the title of this video I'm talking about as well on how to conduct and direct interviews. Kind of one thing that I really have found over the years that make things easier and can make things also really tough if you do it a certain way. And that is if we're doing like a documentary style or just kind of like a candid interview, a non-scripted interview. What I think is a really an interview. It's not just to sit down somebody talking to the camera with a teleprompter. That's a different thing. That's delivering a message. That's all kind of written out and figured out beforehand. An interview. I'm asking you questions. You're going to respond with the questions, and we're going to have a conversation, and things are going to go from there. What I found over the years is been where we start having issues this way is when people want to see the questions beforehand, and not just an idea of the questions. They want to know what the actual questions are. And why I do not like, and I do not suggest to other people I'm working with and stuff that we give that to the people we're doing interviews with, is because typically, not everybody, but a lot of people will start reading the questions and start really thinking over in their head what their response is going to be. And then they'll start to write it down, and they'll make this big list of what they want to say. And then they'll come to the interview with this piece of paper. And then they'll say like, oh, I have it written down what I want to say. Can we somehow use this and can I pin this up to the camera and read it, or can I hold it in front of me and read it, or do you mind if I just keep looking down at the paper? And it never really works well. I mean, for one, again, if you were doing a teleprompter, you could do something like that. It feels different if you're doing it that way as well. I think it feels less authentic. I always try to steer around not having this happen. The other issue with that is, a lot of times, even if they're not holding the paper and doing that, they've written everything down. They're really thinking exactly what they wrote, and they stumble over themselves trying to remember exactly what they wrote, and they'll be like, "Oh no, that's not right. Oh, this is," and it usually makes the interview go really terrible when somebody's done it this way. I've never done an interview this way where somebody's written down huge things and notes, point forms of things they want to talk about. That's been okay. When they've written paragraphs of what their response is going to be, usually been a bit of a disaster. Unless we have a teleprompter with us, which I've done on an occasion where it's like, listen, I have a teleprompter with me. Let's just set it up and do this. If that's like one person or one off, or it's a CEO or somebody important, we need to make sure that they're speaking well on camera and getting it done. But for just kind of raw interviews and again, more documentary style, where we're trying to get real emotions for people, real kind of reactions, the way that they really speak, because a lot of people don't write in the way that they actually really speak. This has been really tricky. So we had one gentleman that we didn't give the questions beforehand, but he came in, he was, talking to us about doing the interview, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to do it. Then he took a copy of the questions and he left. And when he came back a couple hours later, he had all this stuff written. And I could tell he was very nervous, and then he wanted to read off what he had written. So, I said, this is not really going to work. We can try to break this up. We were shooting with 2 cameras, so we can cut between the 2 cameras. But it was probably definitely the most painful one of the interviews. It will be one of the most painful interviews to piece anything together from. And I think he would have been much better, much, much better if we just did it off the cuff. These weren't like trick questions. It was questions about what their job is and what they do in their job and why they like working where they're working and how do they do stuff. It wasn't anything very complicated. So I get the idea. Sometimes people want to write these things down and be like, I need to hit these points and these points. And this is like the, key things to talk about. Those as point forms for people. And maybe they can look at a piece of paper, or you can prompt them with those things. They can give that piece of paper to you and say, can you address this point and this point? That works. Writing stuff down for interviews like this, I find terrible, terrible don't do it. Let me know, guys, in the comments below, what are your advice? What's your experience when you're conducting interviews and people are writing down all their responses beforehand? Or is there any other tips you guys have? It'd be great to know. I'd be happy to see them as well. It was one person out of about 20 that, you know, again, we got some sound bites from him, but it could have been much easier. And I think he could have made it much easier for himself, actually, as well, if we did it the other way. So that was the Wednesday. And the Wednesday drive home was crazy. It was, we got out of the Toronto, started going north. We got about an hour into the drive and we got to a place, a small town, where there's a bunch of different ways that I can go, the different options that I can go to get home. All the main roads were closed down. They were police ordered, closed down, which happens sometimes when there's really bad weather conditions. Roads are closed, police order, they have a big sign in front of it, or they have a police cruiser there. Can't go onto it. You can try to go onto it, and if you do and you have a problem, it's a big deal. It's a big ticket for that, and then if you actually get stuck or you have problems, you get in an accident because of snow, I don't know if your insurance is void, but you are going to pay a lot to get rescued and stuff because that's not going to be covered. It's not, you've done something illegal and went onto these roads. So we had to go around a bunch of side roads to get around this and try to get home. It was a bit hairy. There was a few experiences driving through some big snow drifts and other things in my transit van. But we eventually got home hours later than it really should have taken us. So that was a, you know, kind of a extra stress to the day, but in the end it was kind of fun. And that was the last shoot. So that was the Wednesday. I got home really late, or later than I was expecting. Had to unpack gear, bring stuff in, start transferring footage, and then the next day I was supposed to be on a shoot in the morning, and then in the evening at a spa, a really beautiful place, outdoor spa that I've done a lot of work with. I'll show some footage here from other times I've filmed there. But basically the weather kind of, again, messed with us. It was really, really windy. It wouldn't look great for models there, you know, just having snow and wind rip across their face. So, like, it was very, very windy. So, that shoot got canceled kind of last minute. It's not something I'll be charging the client for a cancellation day with. They're a long-time client, and yeah, I like them a lot. A lot of times in other jobs I would charge and stuff on a cancellation fee or charge for the day, you know, but I know it's just going to make the product better. And, you know, if I said to them I was going to pay, you know, to pay for that, where it's not going to, they probably would have gone ahead with the shoot, but I just know for them it's going to make it way better if we, you know, what we did. So we're going to wait for a proper day that's going to look pretty and not be 50-kilometer winds with 80-kilometer gusts and sideways snow. So that's what we did. So Thursday was good. I was a bit of a down day that way. I was getting some other stuff done again in the office. And then today's Friday, and I took the morning off, went snowboarding with a friend of mine, which was great. Went to one of the other private clubs he had a pass for today, and then came home and had some lunch with my daughters and went back to the office and doing work here now. And, you know, it's getting later in, I did a bit of editing, so getting close to 10 p.m. On the Friday. And tomorrow, it's not really a shoot. I'm going to a volleyball tournament with my one daughter, and I just take some photos and some video at the tournaments for the team and just for fun, for my daughter and for her friends. So it's not like a paid gig or anything like that. I just do it for fun. And it also kind of gets me out of having to do the scorekeeping, which most parents are supposed to volunteer for, which I really don't want to do. So I'd much rather just take some photos and video for them and give them that. So that is the week. And the following week is coming up, and it's going to be a busy one. I think it's next week. It's 4 shoot days, but 3 different shoots. One is a 2-day shoot, and the other ones are one-off shoots. And then I got to go to the passport office on Monday because my passport is expired and I need it for an upcoming trip. So that is the week. Let me know, guys, what you're thinking of this style of video. I'm going to try to get some more out there, get some more insight as well. of some challenges and things and advice, you know, from these different shoots. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. If you can like and subscribe, that'd be awesome, and we'll see you on the next one.